Well, it is Wednesday. You know what that means? It is New Comic Book Day. For those of you that don't know, I am the G.I. Joel, and I love comic books so much that I left a full-time job to open my own comic book shop and share my love of comics with all of you. And every Wednesday, I review some of the titles that I'm really enjoying and some of this week's hottest new books. So let's go ahead and jump into it. You know, last week, it was pretty much all Marvel. I don't think I had any DC books, which doesn't happen too often, but no DC books last week, a lot of DC books this week, so that's who we're going to start off with. Teen Titans Academy issue number 8. I think the easiest thing for me to say about Teen Titans Academy is I really want to enjoy this series. I've been reading this series since issue number 1, and it seems to still be having kind of the same problems that it has since the start. A lack of focus. You know, throughout the whole series, Red X has kind of been a big part of it. We have all these other existential crises, but none of them seem to be like the big bad. And I think one of the main issues personally is just kind of a lack of a main character. You know, we're focusing on a whole class of students. We're focusing on the whole school in a sense. And because of that, we seem to kind of be getting lost in all of the noise, right? The plot is getting lost in all of these characters. And we have all these lines that we're supposed to be following, but none of them really seem to be like the main one. In this issue, it was a tour of the school for the parents of these students, focused really heavily on Red X, focused really heavily on the dangers of being a superhero as a teenager, the dangers of being a Teen Titan. Overall, it was a good read. If this is, you want to get into Teen Titans Academy, this can be a good jumping in point. We aren't really dealing with any of the stuff that's happened before, but overall this is a good jumping in point. It does have its issues that I personally am picking up on, but maybe it'll be really good for you. Are you reading Teen Titans Academy? Do you agree with me? Do you disagree with me? What are you thinking of it so far? Let me know down in the comments. Action Comics issue number 1037. And this issue was really true to the name of Action Comics. It was action packed. Superman and the Authority are going head to head against Mongul and his Warzoons. And it really seems like this battle can have a lot of consequences in terms of the balance of power within the greater universe. Overall, this run of Action Comics has been fantastic by Kennedy Johnson. If you haven't been reading it, I really recommend you check it out. I'm really enjoying what he's doing with Superman, and I'm enjoying the different aspects of the character that he's really diving into. Human Target, issue number 2. Simply incredible. If you are not reading this series, I don't know what to tell you. You need to be reading Human Target. And if you're not, you are seriously missing out. I would say, to sum up what the story is like, it's a mix of James Bond, a detective noir, all set in the DC universe. The Human Target was poisoned in the place of Lex Luthor, and he's pretty sure he knows the killer is. He's a great detective. He went and he knows that he only has a couple of days to live. We're on day 2 of the last 12 days before he dies, and we bring in Ice into this story. Those that aren't familiar, Ice was a member of the Justice League International, and she basically has ice control powers. It's in her name, but she's a big part of this story, and it seems like she's going to be kind of a key player moving forward, and definitely has a little bit of a femme fatale kind of feeling to it with everything that how she was introduced and the things that the Human Target is kind of thinking about her. But overall, a great issue. Gives you a lot of backstory, gives you a lot of motivations for a lot of characters that we're probably going to be looking at as this series continues. And the art is by Greg Smallwood. I don't really think I need to say more than that. It is simply incredible. And I'm loving the real mid-century modern retro vibe that he's kind of put throughout. The colors are fantastic, the artwork is great, the story is phenomenal. I am super excited to continue reading the series. If you are not reading Human Target, I really recommend you check it out. The first 2 issues are available at gtxcomics.com. Before we move on to Marvel Comics, I don't have any indie comics for this week. I did have the last issue of the Me You Love in the Dark, but I don't want to spoil anything for that. And once it does come out in trade, I will be doing a full review because that was a great series. Up first for Marvel Comics, we have Venom, issue number 2. It really seems that Ram V and Al Ewing are sticking close to the changes that were made to Venom through the Donny Cates run, specifically the King in Black storyline. We're dealing with the fallout and the repercussions of Eddie's actions and what happened during the King in Black event. And who else is going to deal with it right now besides Dylan? It seems like Dylan is kind of stepping into his father's footsteps, kind of taking on his role within the Marvel Universe, kind of taking on all of the mistakes, all of the burdens, everything that Eddie did has been passed on to his son. Very much much a sins of the father kind of storyline, which I think is great. In this issue, we built a lot of intrigue, and I have a lot of questions coming out of it, especially why Eddie is so adamant against Dylan bonding with Venom. But this was definitely better than issue number 1. I'm not a huge fan when they introduced a lot of time travel stuff. Hopefully that kind of takes a backseat for now. Yeah, this was a really good issue, definitely better than the first issue. If you haven't checked it out, not too late to jump into this new Venom series from Ram V and Al Ewing. Daredevil, issue number 36. This is the last issue of the main Daredevil run by Chip Zdarsky. Next issue that we're going to get is going to be the Devil's Reign event. So this is kind of the prelude to all of that. And I really got to say, I love the changes that Zdarsky has made to the characters throughout this amazing series. It seems that both Matt and Elektra were really affected by Matt's time in prison and dealing with, the events of Bullseye coming back and all of that. It really affected both of them very deeply to their core and affected some of the key aspects of their characters. Kingpin and Daredevil are kind of face to face again in this issue. I don't want to give too much away, but it seems like they both have been through a lot of changes, and that is not a good thing, of course, when you're dealing with an arch nemesis duo like Daredevil and Kingpin. But overall, this was a great setup for Devil's Reign. I'm really looking forward to that event coming out later this month. If you're going to be reading Devil's Reign, I recommend you check out Daredevil issue number 36. It really does a great job of kind of setting the stakes of what we're about to see in this upcoming event. But that is it for this week's books. Kind of a light week for me in terms of reading. I didn't have a lot of time to get through everything, but let me know down in the comments, what are you picking up this week? What are you going to be reading? I would love for a chance to connect and talk more comics with you. And as always, be sure to hit that subscribe button and bell notification so you don't miss any future updates or episodes, and I'll see you later.